Pinchas Pinchas Tovshin Ayin Vav. This Shabbos, this week of Pinchas Pinchas, the first of the 3 weeks Bein Hametzarim. There are 3 weeks every year between S.S.S. and Tisha B'Av, and in those 3 weeks we have 3 Shabbosos. And it happens to be that this year, the 3rd one is Shabbos, which is Tisha B'Av. Now these 3 weeks, for Klal Yisrael, for everybody, it is a very, let's call it, very down. We're very, I don't want to say depressed, because Chas v'Shalom, we never get depressed. We always have hope. But it's weeks that we think so much about the Churban and what was once many years ago when we lived with so much of the Shechina and the Beis HaMikdash, and we need to contemplate that. We need to think about it really all the time, but certainly at this time of the year during these 3 weeks. And Chazal tell us in the Gemara, Masechta Yuma, Daf Nun Daled on the Beis, a very, very interesting Maimer Chazal, and it's Pelidic, and we have to really understand what Chazal mean when they tell us this. B'sha'a shenichnesu ha'oivim leheichal. When our enemies, during the time of the Churban, when they came to the Heichal, when they walked into the Kodesh HaKadoshim, when they walked into the Beis HaMikdash, what did they see? Ra'u ha'kruvim me'urim zeh bozeh. When our enemies, when they went into the Kodesh HaKadoshim, Chazal tell us that they saw the Kruvim embracing. The Kruvim were hugging each other. They were embracing. Now that alone, right there, is a tremendous pella. Because the Nesivos Shalom asks, we know from the Gemara Masechta Bava Basra, Daf Tzadik Tes Amud Aleph. The Gemara tells us that when are the Kruvim or in Zebazeh? When did the Kruvim hug each other? When did they embrace each other? That was only when Klal Yisrael was oisin ritzoynei shel Malkai. When Klal Yisrael was doing the will of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And we know, obviously, at the time of the Churban Beis HaMikdash, they were not doing ritzoynei shel Malkai. So what do Chazal mean? How is it possible? How is it that when they entered the Kodesh HaKadoshim, when they entered the Heichal, they saw that the Kruvim were Me'urim Zeh Mazeh? How do we understand this phenomenon? So Nesivos Shalom said, there's a Medrash Pliya on the Pasuk in Megillas Eicha. The Pasuk tells us in Megillas Eicha, which if Mashiach does not come by then, in about 2 weeks from now, we're going to lay Megillas Eicha. And the Pasuk says, Koro olai mo'ed. It's a pasuk in the pasuk in Megillas Eicha. Koro olai mo'ed, and that tells us, Chazal tell us, the Medrash tells us that what does this pasuk mean? It means shaloi hoya yoim mo'ed liYisrael ki yoim shenechrav Beis HaMikdash. Another thing that just blows your mind. The pasuk in Eicha says, Kora alai moed. How do we understand this pasuk? The Medrash tells us that there was never a Yom Tiv to Klal Yisrael like the moed of Tisha B'Av. And we know that that's the reason we don't say Tachnun on Tisha B'Av, because Tisha B'Av is called a moed. And the Medrash tells us that there was never such a moed like the moed of Tisha B'Av. What is going on here? What do these things mean? Obviously, they are defining and putting Tisha B'Av in a place, the Kruvim, the moed, it's putting Tisha B'Av in a place that we don't identify with, we don't understand this. How can we understand this and use it to give us chizuk? And listen to this chizuk from the Nesivos Shalom brings from the Avodas Yisrael, B'Shem, the Mezritz HaMagid, Chusay Yogan Aleinu. Listen to this beautiful way of understanding how a Yid lives his life and how he could live and grow from Tisha B'Av. The pasuk says, another pasuk in Megillas Eicha, the pasuk tells us, Kol roitfeha hisigua bein hametzarim. Kol roitfeha, all those that pursued her, hisigua, they caught up to her bein hametzarim. How do we understand this pasuk? We learn from this pasuk, Zok the Pinchas Bein, we learn from this pasuk like this: Kol roitfeha, anyone who pursues HaKadosh Baruch Hu, anyone who wants to get chizuk, anyone who sees that we have a time now of a churban, we have a time now when we have to think about what's going on with Klal Yisrael. Kol roitfeha hisigua bein hametzarim. Those that pursue, those that want to, so to speak, chase down HaKadosh Baruch Hu, hisigua, you know when you could reach HaKadosh Baruch Hu, bein hametzarim. This time now of Bein Hametzarim is auspicious for us to get close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And Nesivos Shalom brings from the Beis Avraham, and Beis Avraham is in our parsha, in Pinchas Pinchas, that there are two types of Eis Rotzoin to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Two different ways of getting close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is our king, and there are two different ways to get close to the king. There's an Eis Rotzoin. Imagine that a king who has a son that is very smart and very successful, and he succeeds at everything, and he is very good at everything that he does. So we know that the father feels very close and proud of his son. Imagine you have a son, and whatever the son does, he succeeds. So of course you're very proud of him, and any father that's very proud of his son, he feels very close to the son. He's proud of him. And that is one way, that's an Eis Rotzoin between the Melech and the son and the prince. Someone that's very successful. Says in the Nesivos Shalom from the Beis Avraham that there's another way that a father feels close to their child. And you know what that is? When a person has a son that just can't seem to get it together. He can't seem to get anything right. He can't do anything on his own. That too, says the Nesivos Shalom, and here we're doing psychology a little bit, 101, Nesivos Shalom, very keen insight into human nature. And he says that too creates a tremendous closeness, a strong bond between a parent and a child. When a parent has a child, he just can't seem to do anything on his own. He can't get it together. The child needs the parent for everything. And without the parent, the child is totally lost. Without the parent's help, he can't accomplish anything. That too, of course, brings a tremendous closeness and an Eis Rotzoin between the king and the prince, between the parent and the child. And says in Nesivos Shalom, it's even closer than the way of the successful child. It's even closer, a closer relationship than the parent who has a child who's just great at everything and is so proud of it. This is a closer relationship. And that, says the Nesivos Shalom, was what was going on b'shas HaChurban, during the time of the Churban Beis HaMikdash. So depressing. We were so defeated. But that is what was going on during the time of the Churban. We were so beaten down that Hashem became so close to Klal Yisrael just because of that. Because we were desperate and we couldn't find our way out of anything. We needed Hashem for everything. We were so low. We were so beaten down. We were so down and out that we needed HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We were like that son that couldn't do anything without the parent. And that is why the Kruvim were Me'urin Zeh B'Zeh. The Kruvim were embracing each other, because that is when the Kruvim embraced each other, when we were close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So we weren't close in the sense that we were doing everything right. We were even closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, says in Nesivos Shalom. Why? Because we were desperate. We saw no way. There was no other way other than coming on to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And being that we were that close, the Kruvim showed, they represented that relationship, that close relationship between HaKadosh Baruch Hu and Klal Yisrael. And that is also why it was more than any other moed. That is why the Medrash tells us there was no other moed to Klal Yisrael like that of Tisha B'Av. Because at the other moed, we're close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu because we're on a high, we're doing great. But B'Shas HaChurban, we were so close, we were brought closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu more than any other Yom Tov. The Torah tells us, Banim atem l'Hashem Elokeichem. We are children, you are children to Hashem, your God, because, says in Nesivos Shalom, a little different than we just mentioned now, another way, that there are three types of love of a son, love of a child. The parent's love to a child comes in three different ways. One is when, imagine the son, he lives with the father, he lives under the same roof, they do everything together, they learn together, they go together, they play together, they travel together. So that is one close relationship between a father and a son. And then there is a little bit of a greater love, says the Nesivos Shalom, when the child lives a little bit farther away. He doesn't live in the parent's house anymore, so the parents miss the child very much. So, while there's a tremendous relationship when they live under the same roof, however, when the child moves away and is a bit distant, so the parents miss the child, so there is a little bit of a greater love between the parents and child. And then there's even the third type. Then there is the greatest type of love. And that is where, like we learned in the Shir last Shabbos, imagine the father is a doctor, the father is a surgeon. And this father is the surgeon that has to do surgery on the child. So the father has no choice. He's the only surgeon, and he's going to have to put the child through so much pain. And he feels so close to the child. How can I do this to my child? But yet, that kind of relationship, as much pity as he has on the child, as much as he feels close to the child at this second, the father knows that he has to do it. He knows that he has to do the surgery in order, the child has to have pain, but in order to heal the child, he has to do it. And that brings out an exceptional love because he overcomes that love and he does what he had to do. Hashem's love for us, says in Nesivos Shalom, is eternal. There is no such thing as HaKadosh Baruch Hu not loving Klal Yisrael. It is eternal and it is powerful. And at the time of the Churban Beis HaMikdash, Hashem was doing surgery on Klal Yisrael. Hashem was our Father, and we had sinned to our Father. Yes, we were a little bit distant, let's say, people would think, from our Father. And we had these Averos, and Hashem had to destroy the Beis HaMikdash. Hashem had to do surgery on us because of our Averos. But you know, because of that surgery, it brought us so close. It hurt HaKadosh Baruch Hu to do it, but it brought us so close, more than at any other time during history. And that is another reason, says in Nesivos Shalom, why the Kruvim were Meurin Zeh B'Zeh. They embraced each other because it hurt HaKadosh Baruch Hu so much, but it was that highest level of relationship between a parent and a child. When the parent has to do something that is so hurtful and is so painful to do to the child, but he has to do it, and that shows the greatest love. And that was the Churban Beis HaMikdash. So we have this opportunity every year. It's during this time called Roitfeha Hisigua, when Bein Hametzarim. We have this opportunity every year. We long for the Beis HaMikdash. We have to have it in our mind. But we have to know that we are nothing without the Shekhinah. We are nothing without Klal Yisrael. And during these 3 weeks especially, we have to long for Yerushalayim. We have to long for the Beis HaMikdash. But you know what? More than anything else, we have to long for that relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And this is the time of the year that is mesogel for that. So think about it. A person wants to be close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You want to have a relationship. Now is the time to start. It's during these weeks. Let's learn that lesson.